hopefully.
Hi, everybody. Kevin Harnett with you. We're here with Ryan Hoke, and this is Tom Ray, National Weather Service meteorologist. Tom, we welcome you in here. We have lots to talk about as we sort of unfold over the next hour or so. Good to see you, Tom. I know it's been a busy day for your team as well. Let's see. I was hoping Tom.
Well, I thought he could hear us. Oh no!
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll work on Tom in the meantime. Let's do a little sort of brief of what we're talking about here tonight. There's not much happening here in Louisville right now, but that will be changing. We've talked about the alert day ongoing, and that there would be two parts to that alert day. One of those would be in the afternoon, which we've already seen come and go. That one brought the widespread severe weather to the area with severe. Well, I should say isolated. It wasn't quite also widespread, but it was isolated. We noticed that that one supercell storm moved across southern Indiana into northern Kentucky. We're going to focus on that first, and then we're going to get into what we have coming our way for tonight. And that's the other part of the alert day, 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. in the morning. You can already see we have tornado watches lined up across the area. And yes, there are tornado warnings already out there. Notice that line of showers and thunderstorms pushing a little closer to us. We said the target time, 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. 10 p.m. to our north, moving through Louisville near midnight, and then pushing to the south. These are all the warnings. A number of tornado warnings, a number of severe thunderstorm warnings, and even a few flash flood warnings. Now, the severe threat is still with us into the overnight hours. It's a tough time to have severe weather, so you have to have a plan. We're talking about the Wave Weather app, the NOAA Weather Radio, as well as devices, making sure that they're charged. So keep that in mind. We want to go back to what we saw happen earlier today. This is now an EF2 confirmed tornado that touched down. I'll zoom into it. You can see that path. This was in Milton, Kentucky. So the Jefferson County part of this storm, Jefferson County, Indiana part of the storm, hasn't been surveyed yet. But that will take place as we get into the day tomorrow. So we had the storm. I'm going to zoom you into it. There it is, what it looked like on radar as we were watching it. It's that classic hook shape. We noticed that as that moved through the Hanover area and the Madison and Milton area in particular, that tornado was on the ground and it was doing damage. We saw it, and you can see what that storm looked like in a number of places. I'll take our names off here. I want to be able to show some of the video that we had coming in from these storms earlier today. That really did move through with strong winds, obviously. We had a number of homes, businesses destroyed with that. And looking back to some of the damage, it was clear that wind speeds were at or above 110 miles an hour. And that was the reasoning that the National Weather Service rated that at least an EF2. Ryan's working on some stuff here, is why he's not talking. I'm not taking up all the time.
And poor Tom, he's having connection problems on his end right now. So we're able to send audio and video to him. He's having trouble getting it back to us. So he's working on it. Hopefully we can get Tom in here. But he can hear us. So hi, Tom.
Well, that's good. Well, he'll hear us. Let's see if we can't show some of the video that we had come in from earlier today, especially this piece.
Wow, that is impressive.
Yeah, I mean, that's the tornado going across the Ohio
Look at the
River.
debris in the air above the Madison-Milton Bridge. I mean, that's something else. That's like once in a lifetime opportunity right there.
And there's a barge right there in the middle of it.
Incredible.
So this happened this afternoon, right at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Obviously, it was on the ground. We had a number of places that saw that damage coming in. And with that, we can show you what that looked like.
Maybe we can.
Maybe we can. Maybe we can't. I was going
to it. We've hit an auto cut button here, unfortunately.
All right. Well, we'll get back to that.
I'm not sure how that works. We'll get to it here. Not sure why this is not working. This is great.
The technology, the modern marvel, you know. We did show it what it looked like. I think it went on to the next one, so it was kind of rolling itself through.
I'm not sure. Okay, well, we can show that. You can show some of that too.
And this, you can see the mammatus clouds. That was right over, again, the Ohio River, trees stripped in places. As that storm moved off to the south or east, really, we did notice.
Scary stuff was flying around and it was going all over the place. It was crazy. Man, I'm telling you, it started raining. It was horrendous.
And you can see that damage left behind. It hit Mr. Drew's place there. It damaged his home, but it mostly just wiped out his garage.
We're just watching television and, keeping Channel 3 on. Well, I looked out toward the back of the house and through the kitchen window, and that's when I saw it. Everything just went, just a big swoosh. Yeah,
all right.
Everything just ended up in the backyard.
Yeah.
And there again, that storm moving across parts of the Ohio River. We're not going to be able to see Tom, but we can bring him in. We've got your audio, Tom. So as we're taking a look at the damage from some of our drone video, from some of our crews that were on the ground, let me first say thanks for jumping in here. And I know you guys have had a busy day. But Tom, thank you for taking a little time out and joining us.
Sure, I'm happy to be here. I apologize if I go in and out. The connection I've got here is not great.
Well, that's okay. Let's talk about what we saw earlier today. Obviously, it was a tornado. We know that the classification you guys have placed on it now is at least an EF2. Talk about how you roll through the classifications of these tornadoes that we saw and sort of how today ramped up quickly.
Yeah, it certainly did ramp up quickly. The Storm Prediction Center issued a severe thunderstorm, which included Jefferson County, Indiana. And we had this lone storm, as you can see there on that radar picture that you're showing. This lone storm all by itself just moved right through the Madison-Milton area. And because that storm was all by itself, it had all the energy and the moisture and everything in the atmosphere that it needed, with no competition from other storms, to move through those communities and unfortunately spin up this tornado. So we were watching it across southern Indiana as well as you were as well, I know. And we issued the tornado warning for Jefferson County at 1:48. And then we started getting reports of damage in the Hanover area and in the Milton and Madison areas. And then that has actually continued onto the Carroll County as well.
Yeah, and Tom, I think so far we've had a few injuries reported, but nothing major, but something that was, didn't have a whole lot of lead time in terms of days. Sometimes we see these things days in advance, and we flag them as what we call alert days. Then the Storm Prediction Center would have a convective outlook, then a watch, and then followed by a warning. Again, looking at that radar, we were a one lone supercell storm, started in parts of Scott County just before 2 o'clock. And as you mentioned, that warning came out just before that time as it approached the Hanover area.
That's right. Storms were much more widespread across central Indiana, moving into Ohio. And we, unfortunately, we had this one lone cell just move across the Madison area and do that damage.
Yeah, we'll continue to watch the radar tonight. This is something that I pointed out at the beginning. As we zoom this out, you're going to notice additional thunderstorms that are firing tonight. I know you guys are watching these as well. We, for the last 2 days, have been saying it would be 2 rounds, one in the afternoon and another one later at night. So tell me the biggest concern you guys have, and then I'm going to give our thoughts on this as we roll through the next few minutes here.
Well, honestly, our biggest concern is the fact that these storms are moving through during the overnight hours. Now, we've already had a few outbreaks this season, and they seem to keep hitting us in the overnight hours. We had the February 28th outbreak, for example, with severe weather rolling through southern Indiana. And we've had some others as well. And so once again, this will be going through the region when some people may be asleep. And so it's really important that people have multiple ways to receive warnings while they're asleep. As for the storms themselves, as you know, we're looking out for strong damaging winds as a main threat and large hail. And we still can't rule out an isolated tornado as these storms move towards the Ohio River.
And that's true. While we expect them to weaken, they're packing quite a punch now. Lots of lightning, lots of wind, number of tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings. Those will get closer to our viewing area within the next hour and a half to 2 hours, closer to us here in Louisville around that midnight to just after time frame. Tom, we appreciate the work you guys do. I know survey crews are going back to Jefferson County, Indiana, first thing tomorrow morning.
That's right, Kevin. We had a survey team out there this evening already. As soon as we started hearing reports of the damage, we got some guys on the road and got them up there to look at Milton. And then tomorrow we'll be surveying Jefferson County, Indiana, and if we need to do any additional in Trimble. And we might give the Wilmington National Weather Service office a hand and maybe go over into Carroll County as well, because they're going to be really busy tomorrow after all those storms they've had tonight. Yeah, good gracious. This spans two different county warning areas for you guys there. So we appreciate your help with Carroll County, which is also in our viewing area there. EF2 tornado confirmed in the Milton area so far. But as Tom indicated there, a lot more of the surveying to come tomorrow there, Kevin. Tom, we really appreciate your time, and thanks for putting up with us on the technical side of things here this evening.
All right, Tom. Thank you.
Oh, no problem at all. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thanks
Tom.
so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate
Likewise.
that. Yeah, for sure. Helps to be able to, just hear what the survey crews are seeing. That helps determine just how powerful those winds are when we're looking at radar imagery. And that's all we had through the afternoon. We always say as the storms move through, we have one best tool, and that is a set of eyes. That's the ground truth. So with social media, we were able to see so many of your reports because not only could we see what you were saying, but we could see what you were seeing. And that's super helpful for times like this. You're looking at what that radar imagery looked like from the National Weather Service this afternoon. We were watching that as that storm passed by, and we saw that it had that intense hook. It was a textbook classic hook echo that obviously was producing a tornado. That was one of several ways we were able to view it. That's the reflectivity. We also could view what we would call the velocity on this. I want to bring in Chris Good. Chris is with Clima-Vision, which is a local company. Hey, Chris, how are you?
Great to see you, Kevin. Doing well.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for being with us here. Let me explain. In fact, I'll let you do it. But Clima-Vision's based in Louisville. It's a weather enterprise that has developed a series of radars to go in what we would call undetected areas or spots that are dark by the served by the National Weather Service. So you guys have been doing this for the past couple of years.
We have indeed. We launched in June of 21. And our mission is really to fill in these low-level data void areas, as we call them, or blind spots, right? We've got a great network in the NexRad network, also complemented by TDWRs, but there are still blind spots that are existing between these NexRad radars. So we're filling in those gaps with our own radars. And just like you see on screen right there, we're able to observe a weather that can sometimes go undetected, especially at the low levels. And today is a classic example. The TDWR in Covington was out. The NexRad radar was operating. It was able to pick up some of this as well. But it's a classic example of our radars being a supplemental source of information to fill in these gaps and help the National Weather Service with the coverage and the mission that they have.
Well, and it is helpful when we went back and reviewed the data, and let me just put it on the screen. If you would just walk us through this, when we were looking at it, we could see it, but it becomes a little clearer, especially as we move through time.
Absolutely. So as you can see this loop in front of you right now. This is reflectivity data. So it shows the intensity of the precipitation as it moves through the coverage area. And we did detect a tornado, and that's been confirmed there in that Madison area. And right on the border of the of Kentucky and Indiana, it moved across the river and into Carroll County. So again, a classic example of a situation that developed rapidly. We were able to see it and help fill in this this data void area that sometimes where you have low-level storms that can develop and be missed by the existing NexRad network, because the beam heights of the nearest NexRad radars can sometimes be in excess of 4,600 to 5,000 feet in this particular area across central Kentucky, really along the I-75 corridors where we have the most vulnerability. And so you have instances like this across the country where we're working to help round out the view of these storms.
Chris, when we were on the air today, I know at one point, myself and Brian Good, we remarked that we were starting to lose this correlation coefficient being very useful, if you will. Once we passed Jefferson County, Indiana, we were getting closer to I-75. It was becoming more muddy. You know, the pixels get wider as you go out from the LVX radar site there. Tell us a little bit about what some of the capabilities are in your radar, some of the products. You know, obviously you've got reflectivity, you've got velocity, so you can see the wind speeds in these storms. You can see where it's raining, where it's not, where there's hail. But talk about some of the sort of the behind the scenes products that can help meteorologists in these situations.
It's a great question. So these radars, just to give you some characterization of them, from a technology standpoint, these are called dual polarization radars, just like the NexRad network. The difference between our radars and NexRad is that we operate in the spectrum called X-band frequency. It's a shorter wavelength, and this shorter wavelength yields higher resolution as it relates to the spatial resolution. So you can see a lot more detail, about 10 times the detail that you can discern from the NexRad network. And again, this isn't to denigrate the NexRad network. This is a complementary type of system that we're deploying. The NexRad network is an S-band network. It's a longer wavelength that's used in weather radar, and it allows for better penetration into multiple lines of storms. But since we're focused on these low-level gaps, the trade-offs are beneficial for us to sample higher resolution data so that we can see more detail.
Yeah.
You know, like today, we were able to see the detail of the storm. And in other instances, since we've started deploying this network, we've been picking up events across Texas, areas of Tennessee, where, again, the details yield some better information about how the storms are structured and also the life cycle of those storms as they move through particular areas.
Well, I think the interesting part is, and we're going to wrap this up so we can get into the forecast for tonight, Chris, but I think the bottom line on this is we have a company headquartered right here in Louisville servicing needed areas across the United States and soon to be probably world. And we appreciate the fact that we're able to see that data from you guys on occasion and be able to fill in those gaps and show where we have some of that needed data. So thank you. Appreciate the work your company does, and glad you're here in Louisville.
Great to talk with you, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
All right,
Chris. Appreciate it.
We'll talk to you soon. Again, Chris Good, the founder of Clima-Vision, which is located right here in Louisville. We can see some of his products from earlier today showing that Hanover-Milton tornado moved through. All right, a lot of folks on our stream today, and you're wanting to know what's going to happen tonight. So let's dive into that. First of all, we do still have the severe risk. I saw some of you in the chat saying, well, it's already cooling down. The sun is setting. We have nothing to worry about. Not the case. We still have the slight risk of severe weather. The timing we're focused on is going to be between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. Main threats, damaging wind, the hail, the isolated tornado threat, and obviously some very heavy rain. We're still at 77. We hit a record today.
Yeah, we tied a record of 82 degrees set back in 2012. This was basically a summer day for us around here, and all of that humidity that you felt in the air today, maybe you were out for a walk, this is the fuel for those thunderstorms this evening, and that's why it's going absolutely bonkers to our north and northwest right now. This thing's literally lit up like a light bright, the toy when you were a kid there, with all these red dots and polygons representing tornado warnings, the yellow ones, severe thunderstorm warnings. It's all thanks to a big front. This cold front is pushing through a lot of wind energy, a lot of moisture, and we had a lot of instability. That's why we had the tornado that went from Hanover to Milton and possibly beyond today. But as we lose some of that overnight tonight, there's a little bit of a question as to how far south and east these storms will make it before they start to weaken. But I do think our counties will be impacted by some sort of strong to severe weather overnight tonight. You see the one tornado warning there, getting ready to head closer to the Terre Haute region there.
Yeah, and just past Terre Haute, a cluster of severe thunderstorm warnings. So you can see some of the wind speeds on those from the velocity that we have. These will go between, say, Seymour and Indianapolis. These storms are moving in. For us, we're still dry for now, but you can still see on the southern flank of that, we are going to notice that movement to the south. And that's why we're saying between 10 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Lots of lightning with these storms currently as well.
This is going to keep you awake tonight. And I know that's unsettling for so many of us. We see and hear all of your comments about storm anxiety and going through different events. Having a tornado already in the area today is anxiety inducing. We get it. But what you need to do is make sure you have a no weather radio with batteries in alert mode, and don't sleep with your phone on silent tonight. Look, I am guilty of keeping my phone on silent like 90% of the time here, but this is not the night to do that, because you'll be able to get the Wave weather apps alerts, any of those emergency weather notifications from the federal government as well. You need to have multiple ways to be alerted, because this is as important as a house fire. You need to make sure, like a smoke detector, you have a Wave weather app and a NOAA weather radio ready to go for it.
Yeah, and while we expect this to gradually weaken, it hasn't reached that weakening phase yet. So when we talk about the storm timing and that threat, it is going to be higher to our north. So the energy is still there at 10 o'clock when it moves into parts of Orange, even over into northern Washington, Lawrence, Jackson, Jennings County. We're still looking at some very strong storms as that moves off to the south. We'll also notice that by midnight, it should be getting closer to the Ohio River. That would include us here in Louisville. And again, weakening as it moves to the south, but maybe not still out of the woods. It depends how fast it weakens. And remember, we're not in that weakening phase yet. So that's what we're looking at. When we see our rain chances linger into tomorrow, we have a little bit of a lull, but we'll raise them back up tomorrow afternoon. But those storms are not severe. The severe threat comes our way tonight, and it's what we're watching on the radar right now.
And those shower chances you see increasing tomorrow afternoon, that's because the cold air overhead is moving in, inspiring shower development during the afternoon. So kind of a cooler, showery, gloomy day here for our Friday, but not severe tomorrow during the day, only between that 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. window, which looks to be still pretty good based on the timing of these storms on the radar here, Kevin. We're almost coming up on 9 o'clock. These are starting to inch a little closer to us than just south of the I-70 corridor.
And that's true. Now, is everybody going to see severe weather tonight? No. Will there be some strong to severe storms? It's likely. Will they go all the way down to Louisville? It's possible. And even areas to our south could also possibly see some strong storms. So we're here to keep an eye on it. I'm going to jump to some of your questions. There have been a lot of those in here. So I'll just kind of scroll back up and put a few of these on the air. And we've got Cindy Thurman saying there's lots of damage in the Hanover area. We've seen that. We've had a number of our crews in the Hanover area. In fact, we can show you a little bit of what that looked like as those storms move through. Moving across the Ohio River, it was kicking up a lot of spray and a lot of debris.
And I will say the fact that it sat on the river for as long as it did, Kevin, may have prevented some of the damage it would have caused otherwise. The river's placement actually kind of helping us out there today with it just kind of straddling the river between Madison and Milton for a lot of it.
And here is Taylor Marie Lair saying that she made it home just in time. She works in Carrollton. Sirens went off as soon as she pulled in her driveway just after 2 o'clock.
Right.
That's too close for comfort.
Woo, yeah. And this is an area where not everybody has a basement. We talked to that one homeowner today. They were kind of in the center of their house, first floor. That's where you need to be too if you don't have a place to go like that.
Very true. We, again, just pulling some of your comments here. And some people are just saying, hey, I was at work, no sirens in places here or there. How bad will it get in Madison tonight? So I know a lot of the folks that are in that hard-hit zone always want to know whether you have open roofs, whether some of your belongings are out and strewn about. Are they going to get wet? Yes, we are going to see rain across the area tonight. The severe threat for Madison, for any place in southern Indiana, is there. It's not a guarantee, but we do have that chance for some strong storms to move through during the late night hours tonight, probably around that midnight time frame.
It's nerve-wracking too, because we've had a lot of nocturnal severe weather lately. Tom was talking about that a little earlier in this broadcast here. This is one of those nights where you need to make sure you have a way to get alerted, but also make sure you call friends and family if they happen to be under a tornado warning during that time too.
Sean is asking, supposed to get strong storms here in Scott County around 10. Do you guys know if there's a risk of tornadoes and hail for us? Those are the main risks. Damaging winds and hail are the main risk with the strongest storms. Now, when you look at this radar view, not all of them are severe. Many of them are, by the way. You can see that just by looking.
And that's a problem.
Yeah, that is a problem. And the red boxes indicating the tornado warnings, obviously. That means these storms are rotating. Not all of those have tornadoes on the ground, but the storms are rotating. We have an environment where we have some very strong wind shear in the environment, and that's giving us the ability to rotate the storms. The question is, how much instability would be available? And we have had enough today, obviously, to see the tornado form this afternoon, and we still have enough to see severe weather form. Now, over the course of the next couple of hours, as we gradually ease things back, will we still have enough instability? And that's always the question.
And that's tough. But this time of year, as we start to get a little closer to actual spring here, it's a little easier to get more of that moisture flow from the Gulf of Mexico. You don't have to have sunlight to have instability here. These overnight events like December of 2021, which this will not be like, by the way, and the one we just had as well, they're powered by moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, not necessarily sunlight. So there's kind of two ways you can make the atmosphere unstable: moisture and heating. We'll have the moisture tonight.
We have seen a number of reports, and I see some folks, Terry's popping in here, where it says a large, the text is too long for me to pop up, but a large tornado in Winchester up in Randolph, Indiana. So we do have tornadoes that are on the ground in Indiana in places.
And one thing I do want to say, just kind of a tip for when you're looking at our radar display here, and you'll see at the bottom middle of your screen, if you see a black outline or a white outline, that means that tornado warning or severe thunderstorm warning has something worse with it than usual, meaning a tornado has been sighted, or there's a severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible tag or considerably damaging hail. So keep that in mind. If you ever see these white outlines on them, you can see one there in Ohio that's flashing right now.
And I'm circling the one in southern
Illinois.
Illinois.
You see that severe thunderstorm warning, but that one in Ohio probably has a tornado observed tag just north and west of Dayton, which is not a good thing either. So if you ever see those, that means it's kind of like a severe thunderstorm or tornado warning with something more attached to it, which is never a good thing there. In
So
fact,
we
you can
zoom
see
into it.
and you'll see
observed.
tornado observed. Yep, that's exactly what we thought would happen. Yep.
So again, we've programmed the way our look is to sort of be subtle in the way you can see what those warnings hierarchy is, in other words. And again, we can scroll through them. Like there's one that's just radar indicated. But if you see those black lines around the severe thunderstorm warnings, you're going to see it says tornado possible. If I can get the tornado warning out of there.
There it is. Tornado possible.
Tornado possible.
Bingo.
So that's
like
what
that.
those mean.
These are little cues for us on the air to know what we're dealing with, but you can use them at home as well. We didn't want to color the warnings differently because that's really confusing, and I know some places do that. So
That is
we're not going to do that here.
Angela's asking, is the cap that Brian talked about this morning still in play for this evening's storms over central Kentucky? And the fact is we're now breaking that cap, obviously, with these storms moving in.
Yep.
That cooler air washes out that warm layer, and so the cap is breaking.
And once you got the cap broken, it's broken. Usually you can't re-intensify that too much unless you get some other atmospheric element involved.
Yes. All right. I kind of like what Jennifer was asking. She's like, what's Mother Nature? She's got issues.
Mother Nature needs
Never
counseling
control her,
badly.
you know? All right, a lot of people are asking about their individual locations, and that's impossible for us to get into. So I tell you what I'll say to that is what someone was asking about a timeline. So let me push that back up. And we've been saying it all day. There's not been a lot of change in this map, and that is between 10 and midnight. So we've given ourselves a 2-hour window just to give a little bit of buffer time. That will move across our northernmost counties. That's places like Paoli, English, Eckerty, lifting up toward Bedford and Mitchell and Salem, Brownstown, Seymour, North Vernon. Those places would be between 10 and midnight. Getting closer to the Louisville area, that would include places like Corydon, New Albany, Greenville, moving up toward Jeffersonville, Charlestown, on toward Madison, LaGrange, areas just south of the river. That's between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m., moving to the south as you work your way closer to the parkways by the end of that range. And then south of the parkways, once we get past that 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. time frame.
Right, and that's when it becomes just a kind of rainy, showery event for us in our 30 counties that we serve here as we go throughout the day on Friday. So if you do hear any thunder after 4 or 5 a.m. on Friday, don't be concerned. That's just the atmosphere trying to get the rest of its energy out of its system, but it wouldn't be severe by that point.
Shonda's asking a question about, is that considered a water spout since it was on the water, or is it still a tornado? No, it's a water spout.
Yeah.
So went from a tornado to a water spout to a tornado is the way that storm worked.
And often water spouts aren't as powerful, but they're the tornadoes that start as water spouts that typically aren't as powerful. This one was a pre-existing tornado, went to water spout status, then back to a tornado. So it was still kind of a powerful thing, even all through its track, despite it being over water, which made for some crazy video. If we could pop that up here, there we go. That technically right there, getting ready to hit the Madison Milton Bridge, was a water spout. You see the debris in the air indicating it was over land, was picking up debris, was causing damage. And boy, what a kind of a once in a lifetime sight up there. Crazy stuff.
Elizabeth is asking, would you recommend folks who live in a mobile home sleep somewhere else tonight? You know, I always think when there's a risk of tornadoes that it's always safer to at least make sure you can get the warning. And that takes out part of the, worry and risk. But sometimes, like today, there's little warning. We haven't had days of buildup of this. It happened, and you had to make immediate decisions. So it depends what your threshold is on that. If it's something that bothers you and you feel like you'd sleep easier, then get out and sleep somewhere else. If you feel like you have a NOAA weather radio or a device that will wake you up, then, probably take the chance if I were the one doing it.
Right. It's always better to err on the side of caution and to have sort of an immediate plan in place. And if you can't get that immediate plan, that's when you just put in some sort of contingency, like going and sleeping in a friend's house with a basement or something like that.
All right. Here's Chris. He's a big weather guru.
Yes.
Why are we getting an incredible amount of PDS, particularly dangerous situations, warnings in areas where there were no outlooks by the SPC today? Good question. I think they were banking on the fact that even when we had a conversation with the Weather Service, it was a back and forth on the amount of instability that would be available. And I think that it just overperformed. And sometimes you don't see it. We can't see everything in terms, and I speak for meteorologists,
right.
In terms of all of those ingredients or requirements to have severe weather. So I think that was the discussion today is, do we go severe thunderstorm watch, tornado watch? Will we actually see the rotation take place if we don't have enough instability? And I'm only saying because we don't directly have conversations in planning watches or warnings for that matter. We're looking at the data. We obviously will disseminate either, and sometimes we go on the air before either are adopted or issued. That's the whole reason for alert days for us. It's to say, hey, we see something this far in advance. This could happen. And if we think that the radar looks like it could pose a danger, we'll jump on the air without a warning. Now, I can't speak for the SPC because we haven't had direct conversations with them. My response is, after what we've talked to about the Weather Service, that could have been part of the reasoning. So, Chris, good question, but sometimes it happens.
This was the sneaky sort of secondary setup today. The afternoon, we didn't know if the front being so far west, not really having a trigger, will there be enough instability? Just a lot of murkiness about today. Tonight has a bit more of a certainty with it because the front is literally going to be moving through. And the black dashed lines on your surface map, what are they? They are surface boundaries. So they're like little boundaries that form ahead of fronts. In fact, it's probably a little bit of an outflow boundary where these storms are right now in Illinois. So it's more so like a wind shift, not like the cold front. So it's kind of like a front before the front, but it's a smaller, less significant boundary that these storms are on. But important nonetheless, because the storms are following that boundary east toward us, so out ahead of that cold front.
And oftentimes along those boundaries, we'll see collisions, and that's where strong storms can develop. So the boundaries on a weather map on a day like today are super important.
Yes, they are.
Dave and Jean say thank you for the updates. You're broadcasting when they lost their internet. It's back on now. Good. That was quick. Appreciate that. And again, I'm scrolling past all the specifics because we've sort of addressed the timing, and you can see just based on the radar. Let me take that lightning off. That sort of clogs it up a little bit there. But we do have a tremendous amount of lightning with these storms, and a number of tornado warning storms back out both to the north and to the west. So if those hold together, obviously southern Indiana would be in that attack zone of what could be, a long night ahead.
Yeah, they are definitely getting rocked and rolled right now. In Indianapolis, Terre Haute's got some very strong storms moving in. And when you said lightning, Kevin, it reminded me of your most famous line: lightning has been detected near your location.
From Wave News. Anybody has the app knows what we're talking about.
Yes, kind of an inside joke.
All right. Kathy is saying, is Louisville in the risk for tonight? Anita says, hey, I've been asking for a while.
Yep.
The answer is yes, and we've answered that a number of times. So, yes, we're all in the risk for tonight. Everybody is. Do we have a watch right now? No. Will there be one forthcoming? It's possible, but we all will be under that threat for severe weather as those storms get closer until they start the weakening process, which hasn't started yet. So we have a couple of things going against that. We have low-level wind that's just now increasing, so that will add a little more energy into it. But as we lose the sunlight, we will start to cool the atmosphere. So it's sort of a race against the two as to what can happen first and that timing. And once we start to see that, we'll be able to better say, all right, these storms are weakening, or they will start to weaken in so many minutes. And then that trend will be more visible. But right now, it hasn't happened.
And we'll know that's happening when you start to see some of these warnings getting peeled off. The reds and oranges, lightning, of course, the reds and oranges on the radar display will start to decrease somewhat. But that lightning, that's a big determining factor in that. Lightning count is huge, very important.
Yep. So that includes Louisville. We are in this. We're not under the watch right now. The watch is still to our north, but obviously watches can be added as we go through time. That watch technically goes until midnight. Cody is asking, can we add storm track lines? We can. In fact, we can map out a number of these, but most of those areas out to our west you're not going to really recognize because these aren't in our viewing area. But the storm tracks we can put on, and we try to do that when we're in severe weather. Obviously, it gives the communities a better chance to know when those storms will arrive in their location. Tom says, well, we deliver the weather with no drama. That's our, that is a big goal of ours. It's just about, hey, delivering the info that we have and what we know. It's about exercising our knowledge of the atmosphere and doing it to where we're not putting everybody into a panic. That doesn't help anybody.
Life has enough drama as it is. We don't want to add fuel.
Well, especially with social media. Isn't that the
Mercy.
truth?
Mercy.
All right. Let's see. Going through the questions here.
If you hear our voice tone get very curt and very serious, then you know that stuff is hitting the fan, like today when we were on the air for that tornado that went from Hanover to Milton. But, when we relax our voice a bit, when things are a little bit more fluid, that's when you know, hey, we're okay for now, but you still need to keep an eye on things.
Yeah, Ashley's asking a good question. Would these just be spin-ups? So the difference between what we see along this line of storms and what we had earlier was an individual supercell, which can stay on the ground for quite some time. That was a tail-end Charlie. It was on the very end of that sort of line of storms, which was broken, but that was its own supercell. So that one would have a much greater ability to go for a longer pace and probably go to a higher speed and wind velocity. What we're going to see tonight would most likely be spin-ups along that line. So that, especially by the time it will reach us here in Louisville.
It's a little bit of a blessing that this is kind of mixed in with this line of storms. It keeps them from being these long track monster tornadoes. But today's, supercell setup, that was a problem.
All right.
Oh, thank you, Laura. You were so sweet.
And let's see, is there a high chance of hail for people close to the river?
I think there's at least a decent chance for at least some small hail tonight. I don't think it's overly large. There's a term on social media going around called gorilla hail. That does not exist. That is one storm chaser's catchphrase there, but I don't think we've got that tonight.
Is that Ryan's?
No, it's actually Reed's.
Oh, Reed's.
Gorilla hail! Oh my gosh. That's my terrible Reed Timmer impression. Hi, Reed. Dr. Reed Timmer.
Yes, don't forget that.
Yes.
All right. And again, May is saying, hope it weakens as it moves into southern Indiana.
For folks who've lost
that's true.
Property today. That when we heard about injuries and property loss, that's when the tone totally changed today during our coverage. And it was really, remarkable to see some of the images coming out of there and horrifying at the same time, knowing what has happened right there next to the Madison Milton Bridge. We saw the tornado become a water spout briefly, and it went right across that bridge and boom, impacted that what looks to be historic home there, the way it's built. I mean, gorgeous house, but boy.
And there were a couple near there. There was one that was being restored in that area of Kentucky. It's just beautiful old homes.
I posted that photo on our Wave Weather Facebook page if you want to see that one.
Yeah, and we heard from a lot of the people who were around, as those storms moved in, and it was frightening as those storms approached. I mean, you could imagine not really expecting it, and then bam, you all of a sudden hear the wind pick up. Part of your house is being blown away. It can be scary.
We're just watching television and keeping channel 3 on. Well, I looked out toward the back of the house and through the kitchen window, and that's when I saw it. Everything just went. I mean, just a big swoosh. And everything just ended up in the backyard.
Yeah. And there's that storm moving across the Ohio River. See that barge? That is debris that's lofted into the air. Wow. Yeah, wow is right. And then, of course, it moved across the water back onto land and did some damage on both sides of the Ohio.
Right. And the survey crews are going to be out tomorrow, especially back in Jefferson County, Indiana. They were able to get Milton declared as an EF2 tornado today, both in and just east of Milton there. So they're going to be back in Jefferson County, Indiana. They're also going to be back tomorrow in Carroll County. National Weather Service in Wilmington, Ohio, and the National Weather Service in Louisville may team up and try to help each other out with that survey because it's kind of on the fringes of both of their county warning areas there. So still more work to be done to classify these tornadoes. And that's kind of important, not only for historical purposes, but for insurance purposes as well, because folks can say, hey, I had a official tornado hit my house. Hey, insurance company, I need a new roof, or unfortunately a new house in some cases here. So really important work that those folks do at the National Weather Service.
Yeah, seeing some disturbing reports coming out of parts of Ohio and major damage even in Indiana. So some of these storms continue with the tornadoes that are causing massive amounts of problems, and without being able to confirm that, a lot of this is just coming across from some of the Weather Service rooms that we have surrounding us.
We can plot the storm reports in here then, and at least kind of give you a sense of where things have been reported and filter that out by tornado here.
Let's do that.
Yeah, that might be the best. There's a palette item right there for you. Pretty easy.
I'm going to that.
And what we'll be able to do is see whether the National Weather Service has had reports of things that have happened and they seem verifiable enough that they're able to put that into their historic archive. And look at those tornado reports north of Dayton, between Dayton and Toledo there.
And I think a lot of what I was looking at just now happening. So
right. Yeah. So
may
that's
not
the
be
thing. These may take an hour or two to get. There we go. Now you can just see the tornadoes and the funnel clouds. Funnel clouds obviously have the little cloud icon with a little funnel on it. Tornado, pretty obvious as well there. So we can query some of these. That was 7:49 p.m. So coming up at about an hour's worth of time since then, but multiple buildings destroyed. Good grief.
This was the one in Winchester. So this was at 8:03.
It's Randolph County right there. We were talking about that earlier.
Yes. So we have had, I may have clicked on that one, but let's try it. St. Mary's, large tornado on the ground, 7:08.
From emergency management. Yep.
And of course, see the one on Carrollton. That one moved through. We'll be seeing more and more of these. There's 7:03. I'm just looking at the timestamps mainly to see which ones we have up. There's 8:03, fire department, half-mile wide tornado. So all of these tornadoes that have been on the ground have been intense.
Yeah. And the tornado threat was forecast to be a little bit higher to our north and west today than here. So seeing that up there isn't the biggest surprise in the world today. But our concern is that these storms with, a history of putting down tornadoes and large hail are going to be moving into our counties overnight tonight. Yes, they will be in the process of weakening, but how fast, how quickly does that happen? That's the big wild card at this point. And that's why we want to make sure everybody knows that an overnight severe threat like this needs to be paid attention to. Don't go to bed tonight just thinking, it'll be fine. Because you could do that and then end up with the consequences.
We've got Indianapolis under a severe thunderstorm warning, but just south and west of that, Monroe County and Owen County with a radar indicated tornado. And that's why they flagged that as the tornado warning for those folks. So that obviously has some folks' attention from the Indianapolis market. They are on with their nonstop weather coverage so people can be informed of what's happening there.
Are we tired of nocturnal severe weather events yet?
Well,
I mean,
Tom
good
from the
grief.
Weather Service mentioned that, and it's just
Yeah.
been over and over. February, 27th, 28th, that was a big one.
Yep, that wasn't too
Um,
long ago, actually. That,
no.
that was, 2 weeks ago? And feels like a long time ago just because of how much has gone on today. We think about December of 21 there with that sort of nocturnal thing. So never good when it's overnight.
I appreciate Lily's message here. She's working UPS, having to leave her fur babies at home. It's always helpful to watch the live stream so she knows if to head to her family's house. So that's nice. That's what this is meant for. We're not on here every night. Brian's on here every morning. So that's kind of start your day with, hey, here's what's going to happen. But when the weather is going to be bad at night or something relevant is happening, we like to jump on and let you know what's going on.
Hats off to our third shift warriors who are out there tonight. You guys are dealing with the brunt of this, especially just after 10, 11 o'clock tonight.
Well, we're at 9 o'clock. We're going to sign off here. We appreciate so many folks jumping on with us. We've had literally thousands and thousands of folks on the stream because we're on so many of our social streams, but then our apps. Remember, when we're in severe weather coverage, we have it's a place where anybody can go, and that is Wave Weather Now. It's Louisville's only 24/7 live streaming weather channel. And if you go there, you're going to find weather information all the time. In alert days, it's a little bit more radar heavy. And obviously, when we're on the air, you can watch us live. And when we're on in our social sort of realm like this, you can watch us live. So right now, we're on the Wave News app, the Wave Weather app, wave3.com. We're on our Facebook and Twitter pages. We're on Twitch. We're on YouTube. So we have a lot of ways to get information out, but the best is to be right on that 24/7 weather channel. Just so you know, that's the first place we cater to in severe weather and any weather.
And we also have a TV app, the Wave Now app, and the Apple, Roku, and Amazon Fire app stores. It's free. And that's where you can also access Wave Weather. Now, I know a lot of people like to watch kind of the traditional TV in the living room there, and that's a great way to do it. Those little Roku sticks are like $29. So it's real easy to get connected with Wave Weather Now through our Wave Now connected TV app.
We'll say thank you for watching. We will be back on the air at 11 o'clock, if not before then, as we sort of keep an eye on these storms as they move a little closer. Odds are, as we approach that midnight hour or just before, we may be dealing with some severe weather. So we'll have to keep you updated on what's happening there. So we're going to say goodbye for now, and we'll see you next time with another update on Wave Weather Now.
See you guys.